By the turn of the 18th century, the colony of Virginia had established itself as the lucrative, tobacco-fueled heart of the British Atlantic Empire, a sprawling dominion of river plantations and commerce that traced its pulse back to a single, marshy peninsula on the James River. For nearly a century, Jamestown had served as the turbulent capital of this territory, a settlement shaped by the collision of English ambition, Powhatan resistance, and the brutal economics of a new world order. However, as the year 1700 dawned, this historic city stood on the precipice of a final, quiet dissolution, having survived fires, plagues, and rebellions only to face the prospect of political abandonment in favor of the higher ground at Williamsburg. In this video, we utilize advanced digital reconstruction techniques alongside archival maps, archaeological survey data, and period sketches to rebuild the lost city of Jamestown and its environs as they existed during this critical transition, shifting our perspective through streets and structures that have long since surrendered to the soil. Our objective is not merely to view the past from a detached distance, but to step inside it, moving through the palisades, the brick statehouses, and the riverside wharves exactly as they appeared to the colonists who walked them. And if you remain with us until the journey concludes, we will return to these precise locations in the present day, to witness what time has washed away and what stubborn ruins still cling to the banks of the James River. To understand the Jamestown of the early 1700s, we must first traverse the landscape that birthed it, a terrain that is as much a character in this story as the people themselves. We begin our reconstruction not at the city gates, but from the vantage point of the river itself. The James River is wide here, a tidal estuary where the water is brackish, mixing fresh currents from the Appalachian Mountains with the salt of the Chesapeake Bay. As we glide toward the northern bank, the digital reconstruction reveals the geography that dictated the settlement's fate. It is a pear-shaped peninsula, connected to the mainland only by a narrow, flood-prone isthmus. The ground is low, marshy, and thick with cypress and pine. This location was chosen in 1607 for defensive reasons, as the deep water allowed ships to moor directly against the trees. Yet, it was this very geography that would plague the city with disease and isolation for its entire existence. Moving ashore, the first layer of our reconstruction visualizes the footprint of the original James Fort. Though by the 1700s, this structure has largely vanished, swallowed by the river's erosion and the town's expansion. However, let us pause the timeline and rewind briefly to see the foundations. We see the triangular palisade, built of upright logs, a desperate fortification against a vast, unknown continent. Inside, the wattle and daub structures are primitive, huddled together under thatched roofs. This was the incubator of the colony, the site of the starving time, where the population collapsed from 500 to barely 60 in a single winter. But the city we're exploring today, the city that evolved into a capital, grew beyond these wooden walls. As we advance the timeline to the mid-17th century, the camera pulls back to reveal the new town developing to the east of the old fort. This is the Jamestown that became the engine of Virginia. The architecture here tells a story of increasing permanence and wealth, fueled entirely by the golden leaf of tobacco. We are now walking down the main thoroughfare along the riverbank. Gone are the rough timber shacks of the first decade. In their place, we see the emergence of brick. The reconstruction shows us row houses that would not look out of place in London, though modified for the sweltering Virginia heat. These structures, known as the Ludwell Statehouse Group, form the civic heart of the town. They are long, multi-unit brick buildings with steep roofs and heavy chimneys. Let us step closer to the riverfront. Here, The air would be thick with the smell of curing tobacco and the tar of ship rigging. The wharves are busy intersections of commerce. We see barrels, hogsheads of tobacco being rolled onto English merchant ships. This trade was the lifeblood of the city. Every brick, every pane of glass, and every piece of fine furniture inside these homes was purchased with tobacco. It was here, on these docks, that the social structure of the American South was forged. We see the arrival of indentured servants from England, poor men and women trading years of labor for the hope of land. And, tragically, we see the ships carrying enslaved Africans, whose forced labor would eventually replace the indentured system and define the economy of the region for centuries. The Reconstruction allows us to see the proximity of these worlds. The wealthy governor's mansion standing just yards away from the rough quarters of laborers, a physical manifestation of the colony's stark hierarchy. Moving inland from the river, we approach the most iconic structure of Jamestown, the one that anchors the skyline in every era, the Memorial Church. By the late 1600s, the timber churches of the past had been replaced by this sturdy brick edifice. The tower, which we can see rising above the trees, is a testament to the endurance of the Anglican faith in the colony. We can walk through the arched doorway, passing into a sanctuary that served as the political and spiritual center of the town. It was here that the General Assembly, the first representative government in English America, often convened. The light filtering through the windows illuminates a space of serious deliberation, where landowners in velvet coats debated taxes, treaties with the indigenous Powhatan tribes, and the laws that would govern a growing empire. However, the history of Jamestown is not one of uninterrupted progress. It is a history of fire and fury. To understand the state of the city as it approached the 1700s, we must visualize the scars left by Bacon's rebellion in 1676. Let us shift the lighting of our reconstruction to reflect this chaotic moment. Nathaniel Bacon, a wealthy but disgruntled planter, led a revolt against Governor William Berkeley, channeling the anger of poor frontiersmen, who felt unprotected against Native American raids and excluded from the governor's inner circle of power. The simulation shows the city in flames. Bacon's men, holding torches, moved through the new town, setting fire to the church, the State House, and the homes of the gentry. The smoke billows across the river, signaling the first great civil strife in the American colonies. The Jamestown that emerges from the ashes of 1676 is a city attempting to rebuild, but the momentum is shifting. We can see the reconstructed State House, built on the foundations of the old one. But there is a sense of hesitation in the architecture. The wealthy planters are beginning to look elsewhere. The damp, mosquito-ridden air of the island, which brought dysentery and malaria every summer, was losing its appeal. As we move the timeline forward to 1698, another disaster strikes. The State House burns again, an accidental fire that would seal the city's fate. This is the pivotal moment, the brink of the change we spoke of earlier. Now, we enter the specific time frame of the 1700s. The Reconstruction shows a city in a slow, melancholic retreat. The decision has been made to move the capital to Middle Plantation, soon to be renamed Williamsburg, a site on higher, healthier ground a few miles inland. We can see the administrative center of the colony packing up. The chaotic energy of the port begins to dim. The row houses, once the pride of the colony, are beginning to fall into disrepair. Some are dismantled for their bricks, which are carted off to build the new capital. Yet, Jamestown in the early 1700s is not immediately abandoned. It transitions into a different kind of existence. It becomes a rural estate, rather than a metropolis. We can see the rise of the Ambler Mansion, a large Georgian-style plantation house built near the ruins of the old town. The Reconstruction highlights the contrast. The orderly, symmetrical gardens of the Ambler estate, superimposed over the chaotic, buried streets of the 17th century city. The bustling port has quieted to a private landing. The fields where the original fort once stood are now ploughed for corn and tobacco. The church tower remains, standing lonely against the sky, a bell tower without a congregation, as the center of gravity shifts north. As we navigate through this early 18th century version of the landscape, we invite you to look closely at the texture of the ground. The roads that were once packed with carts and hurried politicians are now overgrown with grass. The foundations of the row houses are becoming green mounds, slowly sinking back into the earth. This is a visualization of memory fading. The city is becoming a sight. However, the legacy of what happened here is more potent than ever. The laws codified here, the system of chattel slavery established here, and the model of plantation agriculture developed here are exploding outward, covering the entire colony of Virginia. Jamestown is dying as a city, but it has succeeded as a colony. Let us take a moment to explore the domestic life that remained. Imagine walking into the kitchen of a surviving farmstead on the island in 1710. The digital reconstruction lights the room with the warm glow of a hearth. We see imported ceramics from England, Delftware from the Netherlands, and pewter tankards. The table is set with food grown in the local rich soil: corn, pork, and venison. Despite the capital moving, the people who stayed maintained a connection to the global trade network. They were not isolated frontiersmen anymore. They were part of a settled Atlantic society. We can see a newspaper from London on the table, weeks old, bringing news of the War of the Spanish Succession. We now move the camera to the western end of the island, where the connection to the mainland was maintained. In the 1700s, this is where the ferry operated, carrying travelers across the James River. The Reconstruction shows the ferry landing, a vital artery even after the government left. We see travelers on horseback, perhaps stopping to look at the ruins of the old state house before continuing on to Williamsburg. For them, Jamestown was already becoming a piece of history, a place of old times. It is important to visualize the environmental changes as well. Our simulation accelerates the geological process. We can see the James River eating away at the shoreline. The island is shrinking. The western corner, where the original 1607 fort was located, is being undercut by the tides. By the mid-18th century, much of the site of the first landing is submerged. The river is reclaiming the land, hiding the evidence of the early struggles beneath feet of silt and water. This erosion would continue unchecked for centuries, creating a mystery that archaeologists would only solve in recent times. Let us now drift back toward the church tower, the sentinel of the island. In the 1750s, the church is still standing, but it is aging. The roof requires repair. The graveyard surrounding it is filling up, a catalogue of the colony's lineage. The tombstones, which we have digitally restored to their original legibility, bear the names of Lee's, Ludwell's, and Blair's families that would go on to shape the American Revolution. Standing here in the simulation, surrounded by the quiet hum of the cicadas and the rustle of the wind in the pines, we get a sense of the ghostliness of the place. It is a sharp contrast to the bustling, muddy, desperate energy of the 1600s. The chaos has been replaced by a pastoral silence. As we approach the end of the 18th century in our timeline, the transformation is complete. Jamestown is no longer a town in any functional sense. It is a large farm owned by the Travis and Ambler families. The revolution passes through here in 1781, with skirmishes occurring near the church, but the city that gave birth to the colony is gone. It has been deconstructed, brick by brick, its DNA absorbed into the plantation society of the South. Now, fulfilling the promise we made at the start of this journey, we dissolve the Reconstruction to reveal the present day. The transition is striking. The busy wharves and the smoke-filled taverns fade away, replaced by the manicured grass and interpretive signs of the National Park Service and Jamestown rediscovery. We are looking at the same coordinates, but the layer of time has been stripped back. The most dramatic difference is the silence. Where once there was the shouting of sailors, the clanging of blacksmith hammers, and the debates of legislators, there is now only the sound of tourists and the wind off the river. We can see the old church tower, the only 17th century structure still standing above ground. It is a rugged, weathered shell, its bricks worn smooth by 300 years of wind and rain. The roof we saw in the Reconstruction is gone, though a memorial church was built behind the tower in the early 20th century. Look toward the riverbank. Do you remember the triangular fort we visualized at the beginning? For decades, historians believed it had been completely washed away by the river. But look at the active archaeological dig site near the water. This is where modern science has performed a miracle. We can see the outlines of the post holes, the very stains in the soil where the original wooden palisades stood. The seawall, built in the 20th century, now protects what remains of the site from the river that tried to consume it. We can also see the outline of the new town. The rows of brick houses we walked through are now defined by brick outlines in the grass, ghost foundations that show the layout of the streets. The Ludwell State House Group is visible as a series of cellars and hearths exposed to the sky. It requires a leap of imagination to see the bustling capital that once stood here, which is why the Reconstruction we just experienced is so vital. It bridges the gap between these silent ruins and the vibrant, dangerous reality of the past. The Ambler Mansion, which we saw rise in the 18th century, is now itself a ruin. We can see the shell of the house standing in the center of the island, a skeleton of the plantation era that followed the city's demise. It burned down and was rebuilt multiple times, finally succumbing to fire in 1898, leaving the jagged walls we see today. It stands as a double ruin, a ruin of the 18th century built atop the ruins of the 17th. Walking through Jamestown today offers a profound sense of solitude. It is a place of beginnings and endings. It is where the British Empire in America began, where the first representative assembly met, and where the first enslaved Africans were brought to English North America. It is the genesis point of the United States' most deeply rooted complexities. The modern landscape, with its statues and quiet pathways, honors this weight, but it cannot fully capture the sensory experience of the living city. As we conclude this reconstruction, we are left with the realization that cities are fragile things. They are born of geography and economics, and when those tides shift, they can vanish, leaving only shadows in the dirt. Jamestown served its purpose as the beachhead, the difficult first step, and then it receded, allowing the colony it birthed to grow beyond it. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. We have walked the muddy streets of the 1600s, witnessed the fires of rebellion, and watched the slow, quiet transition of the 1700s. We have seen how a bustling capital dissolves into a memory. If you would like to explore another lost city, or a specific turning point in history, where the physical landscape has been completely erased by time, please let us know in the comments below.